Hey, what's up? My name's Beth Bailey, and I am here because I want to talk about a new interview series I'm going to be doing, in part because I'm just a really curious person and I have a lot of different art contacts in my life that have taken so many different pathways to get to where they are. I know people who are in woodworking, in fashion design, engineers, art directors at museums, in educational capacities. I would love to get people on who know about things like baking and other creative ways that you can be working in this life. There's just so many different avenues for creativity. And at this point in my career, I have a weird niche understanding of this and a lot of experience in this world. It was kind of coming to me recently when I picked up a couple sign painting gigs because someone asked me if I could do it, and I realized, yes, I can do that. And for some reason, it seemed like this hidden talent, even from myself, even though I knew I learned how to do that, 15, 20 years ago or something. And those skills stick with you and those contacts you made stick with you. So I'm just a really curious person when it comes to people in general. And I've also always been obsessed with community building. So I have just ridiculous examples of being at parties with my non-artsy friends and just continuously trying to make conversation about, so what's going on in the local arts community around here? And people just have no idea what I'm talking about. So I have people who can verify that this line of questioning and curiosity I've had has gone on for a long time. My background is, just going back to college, we can go back further too, but I do have a degree in community arts education. So when I went into school, I was pursuing art education, but I knew that teaching in the school setting wasn't for me. And I saw different people making careers teaching at various places. So at a YMCA I worked at, they had a good art program going for a little while. I saw small local museums that had good art education programs going on. And I always liked the idea of being my own boss. So while it's only been the past couple of years that I've truly worked completely for myself, I've been sort of working towards that goal my whole life, working all different types of jobs to essentially lead to the skill set where I have now. I was a dual degree in college. I went to mass art, and I was also a painter, which is something I still love. I actually made that painting up there. You can only see the bottom of it. Maybe I'll show the rest of it later. But I have all my paintings saved and even a ton of paintings that are partially finished because I still see more work that can go into them. And I do see myself carving time out to get back into those at some point. Sure, I could probably take them off their stretcher bars and roll them up, but no, I'm leaving everything stretched and out there. Someday I'll get back there. But my main studio focus has been pottery since 2015. And since I guess when I started in 2015, it was just, learning all the mechanics of it. I had worked with clay my whole life. As a child, I would get dropped off at my mom's friend's studio, Pam Golden, an amazing ceramic artist. So even since childhood, I've been working with clay, and all through college, I was always taking ceramics classes whenever I could, but the process just took so long, right? You don't know what's going to happen with the piece. It shrinks, it cracks, the glaze goes on a completely different color than how it comes out after it's fired. And I just wanted immediate results. So I wanted to mix the red paint I wanted and put it exactly where I wanted it and move on with my life. And that is just not how it is in ceramics. I actually have had several test firings recently that are just not going the way I want. Trying to nail down this dark green glaze right now. And I just ran some tests and it didn't work, and reformulate, but I'm kind of enjoying that troubleshooting part now. But anyway, yeah, so painting and community art education were my focuses then, and really have continued throughout. So I guess once I got out of college, I was working at Trader Joe's, and I just got a regular job there, working the registers and stocking carrots and everything else. But I knew that they prioritized artists there. They have artists on staff at every single store, as far as my knowledge goes. And it was a great opportunity for me when some time opened up and I got the shoe in to start making some signs. I got to make more and more. I was doing lots of the small hand lettering, like every single sign and label you see on all the shelves, even those are all hand drawn. And I wonder if they have a printer there now, but I'd have to walk across the parking lot to go to Staples and make copies of the different templates the other artists would make and write on them. I don't know how many times I wrote cholate instead of chocolate during holiday season when all the holiday candy came in, but loved that job. While I was doing that, I was also teaching art classes at the YMCA, also in that neighborhood. And from there, I was able to teach in one of the YMCA's preschools, bringing art there, in addition to running all sorts of visual arts programming at the art department I was in. I got to oversee some theater and dance and music programming as well. Got a lot of great contacts, and I need to reach out to a bunch of those people to see what are they doing now. Are they still working in this way? So there's so many different pathways you can go on. My tattoo artist, Lily Austin, she just gave me these beautiful little moon faces for me and my family. Yes, this thing's still working. This is kind of like a test run for me. And we'll see how this all goes. I have my notes here too, right? So, okay, so obsessed with creativity, always trying to work in different ways, making lots of connections, working in the community, and, working a few other jobs as well. And at some point, this all evolved in creative pathways, right? Which is what this is all a part of. And this interview series I want to do serves as a really good component. So I'm looking to, like I said, highlight all different types of creatives and really direct my my clients and my communities to these videos as a resource. I want to capture these ideas. I want to capture these pathways, hear from people how they got going, and what their plan was. What were they shooting for originally? Where did they end up? How did they make those splits? Where are they bringing creativity into their everyday lives? Photographers, that would be a good one too. So let me know. You can write in the comments if you have any other industries that you think creativity is a main focus of. And I will try to find contacts there. Montilio's Bakery. It's just like in my head. They're a local bakery and their cakes and pastries are so pretty. I love the idea of going and spending a day at work with your creative, right? Because I'm like, oh, they're just decorating cakes. But like, how much do we think is actually decorating and how much do we think is them hauling a 50-pound bag of flour around with them? So I'll be really interested to talk to someone like that. I was at Disney on Ice with my family recently, and the puppeteers skating gigantic puppets. I mean, they had to have been 30 feet tall. I mean, maybe taller. I was looking it up after, and I think some of these puppeteers and the puppets were created in conjunction with Jim Henson Studios. Like, how do people get there? I have no idea, but I'm curious about it. And I really want to just highlight all of these different things. So I've been reaching out to my contacts, and I have some people who are ready. We're in scheduling. Some people who are interested but aren't so sure. I had one person reach out who was just straight up like, "Oh, I'm not creative at all, but I'll help you out." And that just cracked me up because I guess I forget I'm working. I mean, I have a business now called Creative Pathways, right? So like I'm pretty confident in being a creative. I've done paid speaking events. I've run all sorts of programs around this, but I think sometimes we lose sight of how creativity is in a lot of our jobs. So yeah, if you have any other ideas on different creatives I can highlight, maybe undercover creatives, right? People who might not even consider themselves to be creative, but you think they are. I'd love to hear about that. So I guess I should start off by talking a little bit about my creative history. So it's funny, I'm thinking about saying this and I'm in my head about it, right? Like I come from generations of creatives, but I also come from a working class family. So how common is that though, right? Like how many people grew up embroidering and learning how to crochet or knit with their moms and their grandmoms? I know not everyone has had that opportunity, and I'm super grateful that I did have that opportunity, but I really don't think it's that unusual. My mom makes quilts. I have one right here. This was one she made for my daughter. I have another one right here. This actually, my grandmother did some of the cross stitching on this, and my grandmother died in 2011. My mom has been storing these, and she just gifted this to me. She made one for my sister too. So it was a collaboration between my grandmother and my mom. Oh, my messing up my mic here. I'm a newbie. I'm still getting used to that. But amazing, right? These amazing quilts. I took an embroidery class recently. It all came flooding back, and I remembered, sitting on my floor embroidering, helping my grandmother wind up her little spools of thread, which is just so funny, the parallels. I mean, I'm constantly embroidering now, just sitting on my couch. Helps keep me from just like doom scrolling on my phone. I like busy hands. So my daughter will see what I'm doing and, "Oh, mom, can I help?" And my natural reaction is like, no, like I have a system. I like have all my threads organized the way I like them. But like, that was such a nice memory for me. So of course I check myself and let her do it and spool the thread and occasionally make knots, but like, it's fun to do it together. And I've received some gifts for her practice sewing where it's like these cards and it's chunky and she's going in and out. But, so hopefully I'm passing this on another generation. But, I had a great aunt who was a painter. Again, she's just something she did on her side. Like my grandmother taught knitting classes at Massasoit Community College, but like that wasn't her full-time job. That was a side gig. She was a secretary at a school. My mom always made her own clothes, but she made her way as a medical assistant and later as a nurse. So I'm the first person in my family to really make a career in creativity. And one of the ways I did that was, it was a little tricky, right? Because I didn't know a lot of pathways to do this. How do you make a career? Like the idea of moving to New York and engaging the gallery scene, and that just seemed so out of the realm. Like I didn't want to get into the gallery scene in my mind. That's like you're having to go to parties and schmooze and like rub elbows with everyone. And I just like being real, and I like where I live. I like my little small town and my community. So I really wanted to just stay here. So I'm like, all right, what are my options? Being an art teacher, right? And I did want to be a teacher. I liked working with little kids. So, backtracking, getting dropped off at my mom's friend Pam, her studio, making stuff there. Later, I took watercolor classes with a local artist named Betty Archer. Props to Betty Archer, R.I.P., but I hope her family gets this someday. I wrote some like beautiful letter once to Betty Archer, but I have to figure out how to send it to her family. It really was so impactful. Again, that was a class. There was a few of us going to once a week after school. Got a big paper portfolio case, got a list of supplies we needed to get, and like we got them at Ocean State Job Lot. She was the first person to be like, yeah, go to Ocean State Job Lot, people. If you live near Ocean State Job Lot, check out the art supplies. They're legit. So that was my first painting class that I did, and I loved that, and little kid paintings. And it's just something I was always trying to do on my own too. I remember there was this movie in the 90s came out, maybe someone will remember what it is, where one of the angsty teenage characters like tears up all these magazines and newspapers and makes this paper mache collage piece about like the destruction of the world. And that was so impactful to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, it just completely resonated with me how that happened and how it was done. So I went into my basement to hide. It was an unfinished basement. And I went and I don't know if I used glue or if I made paper mache. I mean, honestly, my mom raised us like I made like giant paper mache dinosaurs and stuff. Like we were always doing crazy crafts at the house. So I don't know how I accomplished this, but I remember making this piece, and yeah, it came out exactly the way I had seen it, the way I envisioned it. And it was just one of those moments where I was just like, okay, I can do this. That was easy, but almost felt too easy. And then I remember my sister seeing it and being like, wow, it looks just like the piece from that movie. And I was insulted. I was like, oh, well, I don't know. I was like embarrassed, right? Because I didn't want to be copying. But at the same time, that was pretty cool that I could just see something and then process it. Even as in school when I was a little kid, I was an anxious little kid, feeling really shy and not knowing how to speak up in class, and getting behind on some things. And the school got the school psychologist involved, Claire McDonald, shout out Claire McDonald if you're hearing this. But so they checked me out and everything, and they're like, she's a visual learner, she needs to say things in visually. Sometimes being in class with all the other kids is just a bit too much. So I would get to go to Claire's office and like organize her desk and move all her little things around, maybe do some drawing. And I remember purple and black are coming to me. Like I have this visual memory, right? So like purple and black, there was a lot of that going on. I don't know if any art psychologists can tell me what's going on with that, but that was my vibe in elementary school. So I was on this path. I don't know where like the professional art piece of it fell off. I don't know. There was like an internship program in my high school where your senior year you could leave early one day to go do an internship. So I got an internship at the local preschool. I love that. I ended up originally going to college after that for early childhood education, planning on being a preschool teacher. So I get to Rhode Island College, and of course, I add my art elective that's required at some point during the year. I do that right away. And it's in that class at some point where it occurred to me, I don't even remember if it was something specific, but I have this visual memory of being in the studio and something about my art teacher. Maybe it was just looking at her, hearing about her story, seeing her being an art professor, but something clicked into place where I realized, oh, I can actually pursue art as a real thing, as my career. This is actually something people are doing. So I changed my major to art ed, started taking art classes there, and then I realized, what am I doing? I'm at a state school in Rhode Island, but I'm a Massachusetts resident, so I'm paying out of state, and Mass Art is a state school. So I need to transfer, but I didn't have the portfolio for it. So I applied anyway, my really bad portfolio, and a local woman I knew who was a student there, she helped me shoot my portfolio on actual slides. That was an experience. I figured that out. Oh my God. some of the pottery. I was shooting pieces of pottery I had made as like a 12-year-old. It was just like, it was really bad. I didn't get in, needless to say, right? I shouldn't have got in. I wasn't ready. I would have been drowning. But at that point, I was also just like not really ready to do college seriously. So I ended up transferring to Massasoit, the local community college, to me, just to like keep taking classes, get my gen eds going while I figured out how to transfer into mass art. I wasn't done with that dream. And again, I was there for a semester, just like really struggling through the math class that like you don't get any credit for even. It's just like numbers. I'm telling you, if I was a kid now, I'm pretty sure I would have some sort of learning disability, like number dyslexia or something. Like four even like is a triangle to me. I don't know. There's something going on there. Any special ed people watching this, help me out. Let me know what my disability is. Maybe that would help me. I'm loving relearning math with my first grader though, I have to tell you, because they teach math totally differently now. And it seems like it's like works for my visual brain. Maybe I can bring some of Hazel's math homework on here sometime and I can show you about how 4 is a triangle. You'd think it was 3, but so yes, so I'm at Massasoit. I meet with my advisor trying to figure out the next semester's plan. And that's when she was like, what are you doing at this campus? There's another campus that has fantastic studios. I had no idea about that. Transferred over there, started doing all my art classes, met some amazing professors. And, you know, it's really cool going to a community college because I think one of the things I realized is like a lot of the professors are people who are almost more focused on their own studio practice or their own professional career in the field that they're then teaching about for whatever reason. Maybe it's just that they like want more connection with the community. They want to get out of their studio more. I'm sure the extra income doesn't hurt, although I have no idea what a job like that pays. But these are people who are like super active in their fields. They weren't just academics talking about theories. They were people teaching you from their own experience. Scott Ketchum was an amazing professor, Robert Priest, Professor Dunn, lots of great professors over there. And what I discovered is that they had a deal with Mass Art where they could select 3 students and send them into Mass Art. So the students would be applying through our professors through Massasoit and then be selected to go in. Now they were allowed to select 1 printmaker, 1 art ed student, and 1 graphic designer. I believe those were the 3 categories. And, you know, small community college on the smaller campus, there wasn't a ton of competition, but there still was. And there were 2 other artists I knew going for it. I think it was just the 3 of us. And I knew one guy was going for graphic design. Great. But the woman was going for art ed. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted art ed, but she was just a more technically capable artist than I was and am even maybe in some aspects. She could do super completely realistic drawings, you know, with a pencil, just look exactly like life, like just absolutely amazing. And I knew if I was in my professor's position, you'd have to choose her. You would have to, even though I had a lot of really impressive paintings, a great body of work. At that point, my portfolio was solid. I had done a ton of figure drawing. I had done a lot of, you know, learning how to draw perspective and painting and sculpture. I did all sorts of things. I had made a sculpture of my head, which if you ever get a glimpse of my studio, there's like a weird head sculpture. Yes, that was done at Massasoit. Wax sculptures, collage, art history, like all sorts of stuff. I was ready to go for real this time. But I knew that they couldn't choose between us. So I was like, whatever. I had done printmaking classes too. I also loved printmaking, so I had a printmaking portfolio. And I was like, I'll just go in as a printmaker. And my professors were a little hesitant because they're like, we know you want to do art ed. Like, are you sure? What if you get stuck in the wrong major? And I just wasn't worried about it. I was like, nope, it's going to be fine. I'm going to go in as a printmaker and we'll see how it goes. And like, I guess at this point, this was already my second college. So I'm thinking probably about at Rhode Island College, how easy it was to switch your major, right? Like just get in one way and switch the other. And that's exactly what I did. I went in before I even did my first group of classes. As soon as I got everything solidified that I was at Mass Art. I wish I could remember like getting the notification from my professors at Massasoit that I was selected, because I mean, I guess maybe it wasn't that pivotal because I knew I was the only one applying to get in as a printmaker, or at least I was the only one who was of serious competition. I mean, small school, right? So like we kind of all knew each other. There really wasn't a lot of people, not to be cocky, but yeah, I don't even remember that part. But I do remember waiting to make sure that I was 100% in, everything had been signed, I was good to go. And I called up and I switched my major. I just changed to art ed. Mass art, did not care. I never heard about it. It wasn't a thing. It was not an issue at all. And yeah, I got in and started my journey there. So, oh my gosh, at that point, I think I was a fine art framer. So that was my job. At that point, that was job Pam Golden had gotten me. Remember the woman who was teaching me ceramics as a kid? Her studio is next to a fine art framing shop. That was a cool job. Talk about another creative pathways. Maybe, you know, that's what I should do. I should get a framer. I should talk to someone in framing. Because, you know, Woodbridge, it would be like complete logs of giant 2x4s and beautiful fine art going to museums or all the fancy galleries in the South End in Boston. They were headed all there. And, you know, from start to finish, we were making those frames, cutting that glass. I actually had a crazy injury cutting a double thickness mat board once where I sliced off the tendon in my thumb. I ended up having to get surgery and having one of the tendons from my index finger moved into my thumb. That's the only reason I can move my thumb now. Fun fact. Like right now when I'm doing thumbs up, I can feel the strain right here because that's where the tendon belongs. So I guess there's still some nerves connected over there. Maybe a story for another day. Honestly, probably not, because it's about working at the framing shop. But maybe I'll do another chat about the framing shop someday. That was a cool job. It was in 2007 that I started there. So by 2008, for anyone old enough to remember, there was an economic collapse. So unsurprisingly, I got laid off. I was the last employee in and the youngest, probably the least skilled. I was there everyone was like teaching me everything there as I was going. So yeah, after I left that, I ended up at Trader Joe's after that. But anyway, at Mass Art, and got an amazing education there. And I don't remember when it was exactly that I decided I did not want to work in the school system, but it was early enough that like from the very beginning I was like community art education. Maybe, oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. You know what? I cut my tendon. I had to go to physical therapy. While I was at physical therapy, my physical therapist found out that I was an artist in art school, was working an art job, and she said, hey, the YMCA near where you live is looking for an art teacher for their summer camp. I think I was like 22 at the job, at 22 at the time. It was a summer job. I was laid off like somewhere around there. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the timing and how that worked out, but that's how I got the community arts education job that kind of got me going there. So, so for 2 or 3 years, I was the art lady at a summer camp. So I just have like tons of kids outside every day doing all different projects. It was a blast. It was so much fun. While I was there, they got a big donation to build an art center. So I knew the job opportunities were opening up there. I remember talking to a professor at Mass Art about it once. He was a well-respected professor, John Locke. I didn't have him for any of my classes, so he probably doesn't even remember me, but I know there was a speaking event, or some sort of presentation. Maybe it was on the different types of art education departments you could get into at Mass Art. But I remember asking him after, like, hey, this seems like something I want to do, to follow the community art education path, but it's a little scary, right? Because it's not like you just, okay, so I'm going to take this test and I'll have the certification and I'll apply for jobs in schools. Like, it's a little bit more wishy-washy than that. And I remember him kind of like taking me in for a second and just being like, you know what? I think you can do it. I think you could do it. Like, you have to have gumption. You have to be ready to just go up and have a conversation with someone, which is exactly what I was doing. Because he's probably thinking, okay, obviously this girl's in this room. She's in art ed here, to some degree, but like, he didn't know me. So clearly I had no problem just going up, getting conversation and getting things done that way. So he sensed my entrepreneurial spirit, and that was the path I followed. And it was great. It was awesome. I learned all about various community art projects, all the different ways artists can be involved in their communities to help bring community together, to create community, and the artists and artist educators' role as a support to the community. And so that's such a driving force in what I do now. Whenever I'm engaging in new clients or contracts or anything, I always try to be super clear with them that, like, my goal is to be a support to you. So I'm here for you. Here's all my skills. Here's everything I know about this stuff. Like, I can throw together a contract like it's nothing. I'll talk about AI and how I use AI for all that stuff another time. But at the end of the day, I'm here to support you. I'm here to take your vision and push it through my little like artist community brain and see how we can pull these things together. So I love working together with people in community. I love trying to pull diverse groups together. Like, I'll have to have another video where I talk all about like really what is Creative Pathways, how did it start, the sketchbook project, did it begin as, going into the greeting card project, now I'm doing murals, sign painting, this interview series, all these different things. But it started with me making art with my kids. So it started, I wonder if I can find any pages. This is like my crazy work sketchbook, but like, just like, doodles. And sometimes I have, just like random things in here. This one doesn't look like it's been scribbled on that much, but here's just like some waves, and I don't know what it says in here. I'm sure I should be showing these sketchbooks without checking them out. Oh, look at this one. But yeah, if I wanted to keep making art all the time, I had to accept that my kids were going to be scribbling. This is all me. This is not kids scribbling. But some other stuff, just like cutting pages out all the time, right? So yeah, so working collaboratively and bringing together ideas. I've always found a lot of great impact from that. So my sketchbooks with my family, my kids, were drawing together, and then eventually you go back to the page again and again and again, and it builds up all these beautiful layers that you can then cut out, use as collage materials. So that's sort of where I got going on that. But anyway, so I bring that project all around, which again, I got to get into that another time. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But the Boston Children's Museum invited me in last June. That was super exciting. And I got to work with multi-generational groups, right? Because it's people coming in with their families. So it's grandparents and parents, older kids, younger kids, no problem. People with typically developing brains, people with atypically developing brains, all huge variety of people. English speakers, non-English speakers, and it was like no big deal. The program translated perfectly, and it was so cool to see how everyone like got going and could see that it just, they could make stuff, and it's a collaborative effort. People are adding in and adding on layers that others have already added on, so they just sort of end up with these really beautiful pieces regardless of how much they're even able to contribute themselves. I'm going to be working with the local teen group, a couple different local teen groups, which I have before, but this year I'm also layering in the Council on Aging. I want to get local teens and elderly working together, right? Working on the same project. Maybe they're not even in the same room on the same day, and that's fine, but maybe it's like the collages that the teens are starting and the people from the Council on Aging are starting are swapping, and we're working together and seeing, all these different things we can bring together. So yeah, just working with all different people. I find it like, it's just so exciting when you can use creativity as a tool for connection, right? I was at a little group this weekend with some arts, well, not even arts, just like entrepreneur women friends. And shout out to Marianne Gibbons for bringing us together. And one of the prompts she gives ahead of time, like if your next year in review or the next, like the project you're working on, if you could give it a title. And of course I used AI. I brain dumped all this stuff about creative pathways, and it gave me this book title: Bridging Gaps, Creativity as a Path to Connection in a Disconnected World. I just love that. I really think that hits on a lot of what I'm trying to do here. All the participants in Creative Pathways are specifically curated to be as diverse of body of participants as I can manage. And I'm living my own little bubble world here, so it's growing with diversity, right? Like, of course, we start off with who we know, but like, it's exciting to have like a reason to dig into more and more diverse groups in every sense of the meaning: ability, culture, age, like location even, right? Like, I started bringing the program out into Vermont over the summer and into the Berkshires. I'm hoping to get back there to work with a group where I'll have artists making these beautiful cards for new parents through their local breastfeeding support groups. That can be an isolating time, especially people in a rural location who, many of whom have transportation needs, and it's like so isolating having a baby sometimes. So using creativity to kind of like bring those people back into the fold of the community, or just let them know like, hey, your community sees you. We know that you're needing support at this time, and like, here's some love. And it's not everything, right? I'm not saving the world, but something that really came from Black Lives Matter for me is, as a privileged white woman, how can I look around in my corner of the world and see where I can make a difference, right? Like, enough just like theorizing about all these different things that could be different, or, getting out of my lane or critiquing or anything like that. Like, look around, what do I have access to, and how do I pull more people into what I have access to? And how do I highlight the pathways that were in a lot of ways like very easy, lots of just like open doors and like, come along, like, I got to where I got with a lot of hard work and strategy, but doors were held open for me. So how do I do that and make those doors even more expansive, right? I love working with school groups. I worked with a lot of kids in Brockton Elementary and Middle School over the summer. I have plans proposed to get back there in the spring. We're waiting on grant funding, so hopefully that comes through. We'll get back there in the spring. If not, I'm sure we'll be able to work something out in the summer. But yeah, that's the town my family is from. I live just one town over from there now, and I really don't have any connection with that community anymore. I mean, I do now, because through Creative Pathways, again, I've used that as a tool to dive back in to that community. I felt the loss of that community and my connection to it. I mean, I moved away from there when I was 3, so it's not like I had any friends to keep in touch with, but it's the next town over, right? And they have a great museum over there, the Fuller Craft Museum. I have friends who have worked there before. I interned there in college. So that's another place that I can explore in the future. But there's just so many pathways to a creative life. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do, right? It doesn't even matter if it's just like young people or, like I said, even older people. Let's highlight different ways to a creative life, because it's never too late to start adding more creativity into your life. And I think that the more we can highlight all the various pathways to a creative life, more people can get in that way. And frankly, as much as I love AI, and I love this about AI, right? Like, as we automate more things, different jobs are going to be lost over time. But like, you know what that does? That opens up the door for more creative things that like only humans can figure out, right? So where else can we look in our own little corners of the world, and can we infuse more creativity to? Because that's going to be really interesting, right? If you have jobs who don't need lots of like, I don't know, just whatever random things that AI can do, where does that open the door for more time and consideration for creativity in any field? So again, if you have any ideas for different places, like I used to work at a manufacturing place, so I have some like ins there with art directors in the manufacturing business and engineers and all of that. But let me know, add it in the comments, and I hope this interview series goes great. And yeah, maybe I'll hop on and talk about some more parts of my story too. Thank you so much for watching.